We are bridging a gap that existed before, and now is actually even worse because those companies who cannot do trade shows anymore, travel abroad. We provide them with the opportunity to reach out to some of these buyers. Wherever or whenever we have the contact and the relationship with a certain buyer, either distributor or retailers and so on, then it's much easier for us to bring our portfolio and say, oh, by the way, we have a new product from Spain. This is excellent. Here it is. So we bridge that gap in a sense. We kind of bring the trade show to the clients. Yeah. And not only the manufacturer likes it, but also the buyers.
Hello again, food enthusiasts. Welcome again to FutureFoodCast. My name is Chris Reshkalski, here to talk with another of thought leaders in today's food industry and talk about the trends and technology that are shaping the future of food. Today, I'm very happy to be speaking with Martin Dubreuil from S-SENS Food, and I'm very sure that the first thing Martin's going to help us do is properly pronounce his family name. Welcome, Martin.
Thanks, Chris. First of all, yes, I can correct you, is Dubreuil, but I reassure you that anywhere I've been in the world, no one can pronounce that name except for France, so you're good. So Martin Dubreuil, yes. Happy to be here today. Thanks, Chris.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Martin. Well, again, welcome. And the way I tend to like to start out these discussions is learning a bit about your backstory and sort of your origin in the food space and what brought you up to the point of starting S-SENS.
Good. Yeah, I'll try to keep 30 years in 2 minutes, 2 minutes at max. Let's start with why or my origin in the food business. First of all, I started a little bit, I would say, by accident. Since I'm 13 years old, actually, in this industry. I've been, I keep saying 25 years, but I laugh for the last 5 years, but 25 to 30 years in the business. I was pretty much a kid, started in, convenience stores, delivered by bicycle, then moving to the local supermarket, and then at some point, young adult moving to, I've worked with Costco Wholesale, which were the major league, got exposed to the big guys, to international businesses and so on. And at some point in my life, start my international career. I was fortunate enough and lucky enough that I had a career in this industry for many years, and had the chance to work in, including Canada, 10 different countries in America, Europe, and Asia. So I got exposed to the food business quite a bit in different roles, in the sourcing, buying, retail, big multinational startup companies, manufacturing, and so on. So I've done it all, and that's also part of the reason why I started S-SENS Food in 2019. So the origin of S-SENS Food is also based on my passion for food and my background in traveling the world and living in different countries. And basically, because you've traveled also in many countries, you get to a point where you see a ton of cool product and nice product and something that, brands or local product, you wonder, why I've never seen that before. It's an exceptional, sensational product. And you talk to some of these suppliers and manufacturers, and they would love to see their product in the world, but they have they have the ambition, but they don't have the experience, the capacity, the networking, or anything like this to make that happen. Mm-hmm. So this was actually my motivation to found S-SENS Food 2 years ago. To say, okay, I don't want to have the big guys like Nestle or P&G. These guys are all over the world, so there's no need for a company like us. But for small and medium companies around the world, there's actually a need for them to be promoted or to be helped, to be exposed to the rest of the world, but not only from this part of the middle. It's actually from the consumer point of view. Mm-hmm. You go to the supermarket and see always the same thing, but it's actually good from time to time to see new product, new brands, right, new flavor. So the purpose of S-SENS Food, beside connecting people together, is also to make it a discovery.
I would say truly an experienced expert in the sector. And as you noted, had the great pleasure to really experience your market around the world, and now trying to bridge all these gaps. And it's a great lead into maybe explain to us some of the details about your business today. What is it you're doing for your customers?
Well, first of all, our customers are two types. We have, well, we kind of work in between, if you want. So we work both for the manufacturers or producer or brand owners of product that wants to expose their product to the rest of the world. But we also work for retailers, distributors, importers that have the desire to get new product or get new sources, but they don't necessarily have the capacity, neither the knowledge or the experience to do so. So we, if I summarize in one sentence, we're in the business of connecting people. We connect professional buyer and professional seller in a sense, and through the network, S-SENS Food is not only me or a company, is we are currently now with different partners. So I'll explain how it works in a second. But we are at the moment, after 2 years, in 15 countries. We're covering 15 countries in South America, Europe, and Asia, and we have people on site. So what I mean by that is we have what we call partners at S-SENS Food. They are local people that know the local business, they speak the local language, they know, or they have their own network there, and they have both they have actually a dual responsibility. One is to source from that country, so source or recruit new supplier or talk to them and explain about our services and act as a recruiter. They also act as a selling agent for the rest of the world portfolio that we have. For example, our guy in Brazil can source a very good coffee supplier, exceptional, then we put it in network, and the guy in Spain will try to sell it. Meanwhile, the guy in Spain will bring some of the Spanish wine or Spanish specialties and try to, the rest of the partners will try to sell this product as well. So we act as a network, but always with the same intention, is to connecting people in the food industry to make it easier for, let's say, to reach their own ambition of internationalization.
Right. So this is increasingly a challenge, I think, is making these connections. And you and I discussed before that it used to be, before the COVID times, that a lot of these connections would be made at conferences, events where there could be face-to-face interaction. But not only with COVID, but with e-commerce becoming very important in how people are buying their food, and that creating a situation where you can't get the buyers and sellers together. How are you bridging that gap for your customers?
To begin with, you're absolutely correct. COVID was a trigger, or actually worsened the situation that was already not so good before. And now I'm talking more to the point of view of a manufacturer, seller, producer that wants to get into the shelf. Historically, it's always been extremely difficult to get the attention of a buyer, because let's face it, there's only a handful of buyers. They make all the decision that for the customer, what the customer will find on the shelf. So they have thousands of requests per year of product that wants to get on the shelf. And if you're a manufacturer, just trying to get the name of the buyer for your category in a certain retailer is a big challenge. Good luck. And if you're lucky enough to get the name, try to get his email or phone number. Impossible. So you're lucky if you get the chance to even leave a message on the, let's say, generic mailbox or email. And if you expect an answer back, it's like believing in Santa Claus. So it's not going to happen. But that being said, this was the reality before, and it got worse with the COVID, because nowadays the people don't travel anymore, or it's starting again now slowly, but it's not like it used to be 2-3 years ago. Like I said, or you mentioned it yourself also, the primary way to meet new buyers or new potential clients was the trade fair, trade shows in different countries. And same thing for the buyers to find new product and new sources, by the way. So people used to go to those big fairs like Cial in Paris and Anuga in Frankfurt, and different big fairs also in the US and Asia and so on. And you have thousands of buyers from around the world getting there, and your product's exposed, and you know, you can get the connection, you can meet the buyer face to face, get a chance to explain about your company, about your product, and so on. So this was actually a big investment for company, but it was one of the only way to get new prospect or expose their product or their brands. When COVID started, all the trade shows around the world got shut down. So no trade shows anymore for the obvious reasons. Also, no travel, countries were closed. So it made it extremely difficult now for manufacturer, who suffers a lot because they don't have the contact. And S-SENS Food actually it was not started. It was started 2-3 months before COVID. In a sense, we always say like it's difficult for our business because starting a company in the beginning of the pandemic is not the ideal scenario. But in the other way, we actually found that we are bridging a gap that existed before, and now is actually even worse because we provide to those companies who cannot do trade shows anymore, travel abroad. We provide them with the opportunity to reach out to some of these buyers. Of course, we don't have the connection to all the buyers. It's a progressive thing, but wherever or whenever we have the contact and in the relationship with a certain buyer, either distributor or retailers and so on, then it's much easier for us to bring our portfolio and say, oh, by the way, we have a new product from Spain. This is excellent. Here it is. So once the relationship and the door is open, it's easier for us to enter. So we bridge that gap in a sense. We kind of bring the trade show to the clients. Yeah. And not only the manufacturer likes it, but also the buyers. We have buyers now, especially in China, because it's even worse that they cannot leave the country at all. And most of the time, they don't even speak English. So if they want to find product, now we're bringing to them, once we have the relationship, they do 1 or 2, 3 brands with us. Anytime we have something new, we have the attention. So by the way, we have this new buyer or this new product now, this new manufacturer, what do you think? So they appreciate that because they don't need to go abroad to find something exceptional for them. So in a nutshell, this is what we do.
So I think you are essentially the trust bridge between buyers and sellers that in many cases may never have a chance to meet each other face to face.
That's correct. That's correct.
Interesting.
And you just mentioned that the word trust, actually, this isn't, I can speak for hours about trust here. I always said that this business is all about people. And with 30 years of experience, I know you can have the best product in the world, you can have the best prices in the world, but if you don't have the relationship, if you don't have the connection, it's very, very difficult to do business. It's all about the trust people have in each other. And if I have a customer for many, many years and I do good business with them and I bring a new product, he trusts or she trusts that I'm going to bring something that I've vetted myself before, and vice versa. So this relationship is quite important. It takes some time to build, of course, but it's valuable.
Yeah. Well, and part of that trust, built up over time, still comes from that human connection. But when you look at not only the buyers, but the end consumers, we hear a lot about the importance of transparency these days in supply chain for all sorts of different reasons, anywhere from health, contamination reasons, all the way to is it organic, is it fair trade, sustainable, et cetera. How does the importance of transparency in supply chain play into your business?
It's crucial, I would say, especially nowadays with the technology and accessibility of everyone. But I would say transparency means different things for whether you're what I call professional buyers, so someone that's doing it for a company, or an end user or a personal buyer. For a professional buyer, transparency also means about do I know about the company? Do I know about the history of the company? Their records, if they've been fined for anything? Do they have an audit done already by a specialized company or recognized company? Same thing. We're going to talk a lot. We hear a lot these days about supply chain issues and cost. Sometimes you have suppliers that's okay. There's a trend now. Everything's more expensive, so I'm going to go and sell it more expensive. So sometimes the justification is quite important. So for a professional buyer, transparency can go quite far into getting the details right. In the consumer point of view, of course, this is important to some level. But I think it would be in a different perspective, especially on the younger generation, millennials, Generation Z. They care much more about the origin of the product, where the product come from, who's making it. Is this company have a sustainability story? Did they do something good for the world, and so on? So there's much more to be done and to tell about a product. And I often say that people don't buy a product, they buy a story nowadays. They don't care so much to a certain degree, they don't care about prices or brand itself, but they will care about what this brand is about, what they stand for. Therefore, having companies with sorry, I have issues with my earplugs now.
No problem.
You have companies now that spending much more money into Instagram and TikToks and influencer because they need to tell a story, and this is their competitive advantage. If you have a nice story to tell, people will buy your product. Even if you're more expensive, it doesn't matter, people will buy it.
Right. And then, as you said, it seems increasingly there's interest and purchasing decisions being made on, if you will, origin stories of the food. And is it sustainable? Is it organic? Now, you help bridge that trust between producers and buyers, but getting to the end customers is a different thing. You can't necessarily spread that trust to the end consumers. What do you see as maybe upcoming sort of enablers for consumers to understand better what's happening in their supply chain? For example, I think we've talked in the past about blockchain technologies, tracking product, through the entire supply chain. How do you see that emerging?
Well, starting with blockchain, I don't see much of. I know it's a buzzword right now, and it's especially focusing on finance and data transfer and things like. In the food industry, people talk about blockchain as a revolution. I don't see it that much, to be frank and honest. I see it more as an important for traceability, for example, to make sure people. I'll give you an example. If you claim to be organic. Organic means that you're going to sell your product much more expensive because you have to pay a lot of transparency. And you have companies over the world that sometimes cheat. They falsify this document to become organic without paying the fees or making the work behind it. Blockchain could help into these type of certification because you cannot cheat anymore. If one organization emits your document certification and your testing, you cannot change it, cannot falsify it. So in that perspective, I think for audit purposes, for certification, it could be valuable. I think is slowly emerging and seeing the value of it. But for end consumers, it's actually probably difficult to even trace or even take the time to do this on a day-to-day basis. No? So you have to trust, customer will trust their retailers or resellers or even the brands to do the right things. And of course, if you lose the trust once, it's over, especially with the social media nowadays. If you cheat on something and your name come up, it's finished. Your brand is destroyed.
So, in something I've seen, and frankly, I've picked up on more just by doing these types of podcasts with people like yourself, is there are actually brands out there where, and especially I find this a lot with coffee as an example. There's a lot of interest in the origin story of coffees. And there's a particular brand I bought last weekend. It has a QR code on it. You can scan it. And right while you're standing in the aisle, you can see, and it's a bit rudimentary still. It's, there's not fully developed, I would say, but you can see, at least theoretically, who were the farmers that were, picking this coffee for you. If that was possible across, let's say, especially for your situation where you're literally moving product around the globe, some of the product people might not even heard of before, that type of transparency, do you think it would be encouraging for consumers? Would they overlook it?
Most definitely, I see it more as a promotional tool, to be honest, more than transparency. It is transparency to a certain level. And a couple of years ago, you mentioned that now, but this is not a new concept. I've seen it in Europe many years ago, 4, 5, 6 years ago, where we tried this type of concept. And like you said, you scan and you can actually pinpoint on the map where the actual farms, or in the case of oranges, for example, which orchard your product came from. But this is actually very costly to do because and the QR code costs nothing to do and to print, but the maintenance behind it. So to update the website, to make sure it's accurate all the time, and to keep changing the information, you need a team, you need resources just to maintain that. So therefore, it's often seen as a marketing tool because, like I mentioned before, people buy a story. If you buy a coffee and you pay 10-15% more, but you actually 100% guaranteed that you scan there, you see actually, the face of the farmer with his family, and you can pinpoint and this is exactly where it was cropped. That's actually a cool story to tell you. So again, people buy the story, they don't buy the coffee necessarily. It's going to cost probably more expensive and taste more or less the same, sometimes even worse. But you're buying something else. You're buying a feel-good moment.
I think, part of my learnings in a lot of these discussions is there's this collision of technology and basic sort of consumer activity happening right now, where the technology exists to do these things, and therefore the technologists are out there doing those things. But now they're colliding with, for example, people like yourself and brands, and they're realizing that, well, that's not really enough. People do want this, but you have to take this and add some other hooks to it. And then it is actually very, very motivational to the consumers. But by itself, sort of the tech nerdy stuff, maybe not selling a lot more. You actually need the real experts, the marketing experts on top of this to make it valuable.
Exactly. Because otherwise, like you said, it's just the technology. And if you, for example, we even thought at some point that for some product, we use QR code to put a recipe or inspiration. So especially for new product people don't know much about, you can scan, see the recipe, the cool stuff, what people use. Like if it's I don't know, almond milk, you see barista doing their cool coffee with it. So you can actually use it as a marketing tool. What I have doubt about is this is it's a novelty in a sense that people see it the first time they scan it. This is quite cool. They show it to their friends. But is it going to be a daily routine to scan your product and see what's behind it? This I have some doubt.
People need to be entertained. That's for sure.
Because if you look at marketing in general, most of the time it's actually pushed to customer, not pulled from the customer. In that case, the customer need to pull the information. And as a customer, I'm a bit lazy, no? So I want to have my product. I know it costs that much. It's good. I drink it. I'll check the story from time to time, but it's not something that I'm going to be overwhelmed. On the consumer point of view, they're not going to be bombarded by a ton of information that they don't want to. They can actually go and pull what they want to see, but it's not, I think, the human nature to pull as much as to getting pushed.
Right. Well, let's step back a bit to the B2B side and talk again about your core focus, which is connecting producers to buyers. Buyers meaning the
professional
people
buyers.
Professional buyers that are buying large quantities of food for then resale in a retail outlet or e-commerce, et cetera. How do you see these popular issues of sustainability, fair trade, et cetera, driving those buyers' interests? Is that realized in the people that you're working with?
Yes, to a certain extent. When we talk about, I put on the same basket sustainability, organic product, all the LT trends and so on. There's definitely a movement. It's an increasing trend in the market. That's no denying it. There's actually like if I take plant-based, for example, the growth of plant-based product is doubled roughly the trends of regular food or conventional food. So it's definitely, even the small niche is growing extremely fast, same thing as organic. The challenge is the professional buyers know that they need to have this assortment because there's a demand in the market, but if it's realized in the sales of the market, not necessarily. So I'll explain. So for example, if you buy organic product, and you put this on the shelf, let's say regular coffee, conventional coffee, and organic coffee, more or less same origins, same sources. A lot of people and the trends say organic is the new thing. So you need to buy organic, even though it's 20, it used to be 35-40% more expensive. Now it's going down, but still 20-25% more expensive on average than a generic product or conventional product. But what happens in the shelf now is, when you look at the realized number of the actual sales, you see that the sales of organic or plant-based, forget plant-based is a different story, but or sustainability or fair trade product, that the sales of share is quite low, actually, much lower than what the trend would say they would be. And the reason being, and I think, maybe not an expert on that field, but in the front of the shelf, customer tells, I would say, customer have a philosophy. I want to buy organic. I know it's the right thing. I want to buy a fair trade if I'm sustainable. But I come on the shelf and I see the prices, and at the end, it's my wallet talking. It's not me anymore talking. Yeah? So from the pull perspective, from the customer perspective or market trend, organic is a big thing. You, as a professional buyer, you have to put it on the shelf. Otherwise, you're not relevant and you don't do the right thing. But when it's time to make the transaction, a lot of people will actually leave with the conventional product because of financial reasons, or because they used to that brand, this one they never tasted before. So there's multiple reasons why the moment of truth at the shelf actually not necessarily reflect what the philosophy is. So you see that in the numbers of retailers or distributors, like the professional buyers, basically. They have to, they want to, but the quantity that they move is quite, is not as big as you would think.
Right.
And again, it depends on retailer. If you talk about all food, they're specialized in this, so it's a different story. No?
Sure. And I certainly recognize that in some of my own shopping habits, and in others. And I do buy a fair amount of organic food, but when I go and look at the carrots, and it's like, those two bags look the same, and I'm not highly trusting in the validity of that organic label. I think that's a bit of a deal breaker sometimes. Even people that want to buy it, I just from my own experience, and would buy it if they had high confidence, that maybe is a deal breaker.
Yeah. Most definitely. I think it's a reality. I think one good thing that the retailers do more and more now in manufacturer is they're trying to reduce the gap, the price gap between organic and conventional. So when the gap is only 5, 10, 15%, then the chances that people would move up or trade up is much more important. You even see retailers, for example, I've seen that recently with, I can't remember which one, but they used to have regular bananas and organic bananas, and they decided to reduce a bit the organic and remove the conventional from the shelf. So now you can only buy organic. So there's no choice anymore. And because the volume that having only one type of bananas, then the volume allowed them to negotiate better prices, and therefore they sell organic more or less the same price as anybody else selling bananas in the market. So it is. I think the retailers are doing some action, some initiative that allow them to push for these type of product.
So we have a lot of interesting scenarios out there, like you said, with organics, et cetera, and people's buying decisions on that. But something that's certainly influencing people's buying decisions and really changing how they interact in the buying experience is e-commerce. One step away from you normally working with a buyer, but the end consumer. How do you see e-commerce really changing the way people are buying food and what they consume?
A lot, actually. The e-commerce trend was growing very fast before COVID. COVID was just putting some rocket fuel on top of it, and it just exploded. It's actually interesting because it shifted a bit the power, the balance power between, because as I explained before, at the moment, still nowadays it's getting better, but at the moment we still have a few retailers in the country like Canada, for example. There's only a handful of retailers, which has a handful of buyers, and these one control pretty much everything you see on the shelf. There's a handful of people in the country that control what you see on the shelf, and it's these one are also controlled by the big guys, like the big FMCG company that has a ton of money to put into the retailers to give for their own pockets, buying shelf space and so on. And as a retailer, your business, they have a tendency to think much more about their own P&L business than thinking about what the customer really want to see, right? So they have an enormous power. Online shopping is changing that power a bit now, because especially platform like Amazon, Alibaba, so some of the big world platform now allows the brands to bypass the retailers and go direct to consumer. As long as they have a good logistic behind, and most of the time they don't do logistic themselves, but they have also logistic company, or these platform offer logistic, like Amazon. So they can actually market to the customer directly, bypass retailer, so they don't have to pay a lot of fee for being in the shelf. They can they can afford to have much more product on offer for the end consumer. So if you have a brand with 20 different flavors, try to do this on Loblaws or Walmart. Difficult. They're going to pick 2-3 flavors because they have limited shelf space. Online, there's no limitation. Well, virtually no limitation. Of course, there's always stock issues and where else is that big, but there's virtually no limitation of how many assortment you can get into an online platform. So whether the brands have their own website and sell direct to consumer or use those platforms, they progressively shifting much more to reaching out the customer direct and bypassing retailers. So there's a big shift happening now, and it used to be that online business was only 5, 6, 7% of the entire business. But COVID actually brought this up to 30% in some cases because people were forced to buy online. But the good thing is there's a lot of people who in the past were afraid of online businesses for many reasons, for financial security, for I don't know how to use that, to whatever. Now, so young or older generation. So people didn't dare to try because it's a comfort zone. But when you're forced to do it, you discover that the online business actually much more convenient. First of all, you will find much more product, something like I said, discovering new things all the time. The prices normally is the same, sometimes even cheaper than a retailer. You don't need to go out. They deliver to your home. If you think, for example, the elder people, the older people in the winter, I mean, you live in Canada now. So especially in the eastern part, it's minus 40 degrees, it's snowing outside, there's ice everywhere, ice on the floor. I'm 77 years old. Do I want to go out and buy expensive, not expensive, but heavy cases of soft drinks or water or juice? No, but I can go online with my fireplace and my hot chocolate and buy the things, and within 48 hours, sometimes 24 hours, I get this delivered to my home at the same price. So you can shop at the comfort of your home with much more, there's no pressure. We can drink a coffee, take 2 hours to shop if you want, put things in a basket, not sure, I'll wait, maybe tomorrow make a decision. So there's much more convenience into an online business. There's no price tag that sometimes a bit more expensive, but it's generally the same business, but more convenient.
It's almost like there's this collision that's in process right now of people shifting to online buying, that also looking for this transparency. And some of these tools that we talked about before, while they're maybe not so interesting to use when you're rushing through the grocery store, when you're sitting there having a hot chocolate, some of these tools may be actually more valuable in the e-commerce side, because people are taking a little bit more time and doing their shopping at the same time. They're essentially using social media to do shopping. No,
it's true. You're exactly right. You touched 2 points here. One is the website itself or the e-commerce itself. It's much more easier to tell a story about the product, because if you go to a supermarket, you go on the shelf, you see the product, the only story you see is a price tag, unless you read all the small stuff behind the boxes. Most of the time doesn't tell a story about who's making it, the supplier, their story, blah, blah, blah. But if you go online, there's no limitation of what you can put as a marketing. You can explain the product, you can link to recipes, you can give inspiration about to use it, you can explain about the company and why this company is good with people and what they do for the environment. There you have the story. And if you have the time, you take your time to shop, you can learn much more about the brand. You feel confident, you put in your basket, decision is much easier to make. The other point you touch is about social media, and this in a larger thing, not only in Facebook and Instagram type of thing, but we're talking about TikTok influencers, the phenomenon now of what we call social selling is people saying, oh, I just bought this product now, you guys should buy it too because this brand is awesome. So you have this, let's say, social validation online that you will not get in supermarket. You're never going to bump into someone in supermarket. So, oh, buy this, this chicken's awesome, I bought it last week. I mean, it happens from time to time, but it's not going to be as good as or popular as someone online with this social proof or social validation of hundreds of people that put a like or put a comment that this product is good and so on and so forth. So that's makes a big difference.
I was talking with an entrepreneur a few days ago who has a kind of a boutique-y rather expensive, very organic product. And she had mentioned that one of the ways that she engages with her customers, because she can't meet them face to face the way she would have done before, is actually sharing pieces of her life. This is, feeding her kids the food, this type of thing. And that authenticity then drives the interest of consumers. And that's something you can't even do in a bricks and mortar store unless you're actually there talking to the customer. So again, it sounds like you're telling a bit of a story where on the e-commerce side, a lot of this technology actually comes together a lot more easily than it could on a store shelf. And in fact, some of it, while it's on a store shelf, might almost be a barrier to consumers buying a product, whereas via e-commerce, it becomes the positive lever that sellers are looking for.
Exactly. So the only thing that is missing, in my opinion, the disadvantage of online versus brick and mortar is the touch and feel, especially for the fresh product. People like to touch, see, pick their apples, smell the tomatoes. But I have to say, and I'm part of it too, I think is dying with our generation. The younger kids, they don't care so much about what the apples smell. They know an apple is an apple, and they're just going to order online, and they get it, and that's it. Man. They move to something else. So the advantage that retailers have now is slowly dying with the new generation, I would say. What makes a difference, or what could make a difference, is the store experience. If they go to a store and it's fun to be there, and I discover and I can taste some product, and there's some activities or some event, or the decoration is beautiful, and the smell and music, so the actual sensorial experience makes the retailer a bit more valuable than online in that perspective. But again, this in the food industry maybe not as relevant as in the apparel and fashion industry, for example.
Sure. Well, again, back to your business of S-SENS, and obviously an important part of your business is the starting point, the suppliers. How are they looking at all these because there are several steps removed of it from that. How are they looking at possibly being able to convince consumers that they really don't have contact with to buy their product versus somebody else's turmeric from somewhere else that it's produced in India, for example?
Well, you see more and more manufacturers now, or brands that wants to invest, and it's part of their let's say cost centers or anything to build marketing, but not marketing in the sense that I want to post newspaper or traditional media, but they want to think about can I hire an influencer, for example, or some specialized social media and Instagram account that we can build for that country. For example, if a brand in Spain want to export to Canada, they more and more now they want to build the social community around their brands to be able to talk to the customer directly. But you can only do this if you have substantial distribution. You need so you kind of need to work these things in parallel, because if you just bring the product to a distributor or an importer in Canada, and the brand is not popular, people will not buy it necessarily. So you need that kind of support from the brand to build a brand image, to bring to build the social community, that people start demanding that product. But if you do this before having the distribution, then it's complicated, because people want it, but you cannot access it. So you're kind of losing your time and money and frustrate customer at the same time. So it's a bit of a complexity, because we have to work in this process in parallel. So when we're talking with sometimes importers, big importers or distributor, we often talk about, okay, it's good that we're going to bring the product, but we need to discuss also with, it's a 2 ways or 3 ways discussion about how can we bring the product and market it at the same time. So there needs to be a plan behind it. Not only I bring the product at the cheapest cost and try to sell it, because unless it's a commodity, I mean, if you bring sugar or pasta, chances are it's going to sell anyway. People don't need to know. But if it's something, maybe a new plant-based drinks or functional beverages or something like that, then you need to be able to explain it. It's all about the brand, it's all about what people believe. And nowadays, people don't watch TV anymore or a newspaper. I mean, if you look at any typical family now with teenagers or kids, how many people you see in front of the TV? It's almost no one. They have a phone, they have a tablet, and they have a computer. So the brand need to be present in these screens. So not on TV screen anymore, newspaper. They need to be on TikTok. They need to be on Instagram, Facebook feed, and so on. So the brand needs really to develop that part of the business.
Yeah.
And that's something we coach them a little bit sometime, because it's different from market to market. What is most popular or what talks to people in Canada is different in the way to approach in China, for example.
Sure. Well, it sounds like also, as we talked about, social media, e-commerce, having a strong impact today, and some of these other technologies allowing people to look back through the supply chain that may also bring those original producers forward into the e-commerce side, even if you're a component of, you produce the cacao that goes into a particular chocolate bar, they still could be contributing, to the sales of that. I could see a lot of synergies happening there with
Absolutely.
Technologies bringing the supply chain together.
Yeah, most definitely. It's I would say it's always a teamwork, because everybody should chip in and work in developing the customer awareness about who they are and what they do.
Well, we've talked a lot about sort of the impact of COVID, and for businesses like yours, in some sense, it's actually been a rather positive impact on it. As you see the world, I don't know if I would say emerging from the COVID situation, let's say progressing into whatever the next phase is. Yeah. What do you see as being important for your business as you follow and help, in fact, help create some of the trends in the food sector? What do you see coming over the next couple of years on a technology side and food trends that's going to be important?
Well, in one way, and reverting back to some of the points I had before, I think we need to be able to reach out customer in different ways than we used to. In the past, like I said, the retailers were the power holder. These are the decision maker that what's going to happen in the country. Nowadays, shifting. So we need to coach and train and help and support those manufacturer wants to promote their product, to find the proper channel, proper way to manage it. And that's something that we are exploring more and more now, is we don't necessarily want to talk to retailers anymore. I mean, if we have the contact and we have a good potential and we have the relationship and we think it makes sense, then we do. But we're trying to reach much more distributor that have already platform online and can reach out direct to the customer, either through end consumer platform or through business to business, B2B. So distributor that goes in the small local shops, for example, or restaurant, or little shops or hotels and things like that. So we have a tendency to go much more in this segment of the business, because these are the ones that are much closer to the end consumer. Therefore, the consumer can actually have the chance to experience new brands, new taste, new product, much more than if we wait for a retailer to make decision. And it's unfortunately sometimes a question of money, because if the shelf of a retailer or supermarket is that big and Nestle is already there, good luck if you want to kick them out, right? Because there's a lot of money behind this shelf that it's going to purchase. So even if you have better product, cheaper, extraordinary, then it's a bit of a political game also. You really need to be exceptional. The good way of getting new product in the market is to create a demand. So if we start from the bottom, from the smaller guy, from the internet platform, social, at some point the brand's going to be so popular that now the retailers is knocking in your door, say, "Can I have it too?" Because that suddenly now a lot of customer wants it. It's very popular. So that's a good way to build a brand in the market, not from the big guys, but from the smaller guys first, and then from the consumer point of view.
Right. Well, I think we've been able to explore a lot today, and I really appreciate your time, especially with your experience all over the world. We're not just talking about, a small region, but really bringing all this knowledge from everywhere in the world together. Really appreciate you spending time with us today on the FutureFoodCast.
Well, it was a pleasure. Like I said, we can talk for hours.
And we may very well do this again, but maybe for our audience, if you could pronounce your family name one more time, that would be great.
My full name is Martin Dubreuil.
Well, thank you very much, Martin from S-SENS. Really happy again to have you today, and looking forward to having you with us again in a future podcast.
And likewise, thank you, Chris.
Thanks for listening to FutureFoodCast. FutureFoodCast is powered by Farm to Plate, the leading food blockchain platform. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to stay up to date with the very latest innovations in the food industry.